Hello, everyone, and welcome to Evolve Yourself TV. I am Agni James, and we will be doing some meditation tonight because that's typically what we do on this channel. How's everyone doing tonight? How is the world? I can tell you a little bit about my day so far. It's been a pretty low-key day, actually. Let me adjust the volume a little bit. I think that should be a little bit better. I had a lot of weird phone calls I had to make this morning, and so I spent a good majority of the morning talking to people. And then, I had a friend call me who likes to just never be quiet in her life, so I got to listen to her for an hour and 37 minutes. It was quite an interesting conversation. Hey, Swiss R is here. How are you, brother? I hope you're doing well. Good to see you here. Thanks for the host. Those of you who don't know Swiss R, he is an incredible streamer here in the fitness and health community on Twitch. He has two different channels, fitness_yoga and Swiss_R. Definitely check him out, and you'll see all sorts of good content from churches from 1633 in Switzerland to all sorts of other stuff. He's just a great variety streamer and a great dude. And look who else is here. We have One Sluggy. How you doing, brother? Good to see you. And we have Terra Time, the emote queen, who is also a streamer here on Twitch. She's the premier. I'm gonna give you that label, Terra Time. You are a premier streamer in the fitness and health community, and you are the emote queen. Look at that. Look at that beautiful emote wall going. Looking great. How are you doing today, Terra Time? Terra Time is a personal trainer from Argentina, and she streams all sorts of fun, interesting content. You can go to her streams and you can redeem sounds, and you can hear the cat meow. You can hear the cow go moo. You can hear all sorts of interesting things, and you'll get a good workout in the process. So definitely check her out. Hey, Aristotle, good to see you, brother. How's everything going with you? Thanks for the raid list. Yeah, no problem. No worries at all. Yeah, it was just one of those weird things. Sometimes you rate someone and it's like right at the exact moment that they're rating someone else. So it happens. No worries. I could have actually checked ahead of time and seen whether you were actually rating someone or what you were talking about, but I didn't. So such is life. Such is life. Terra Time, you're doing fine. Good. I'm glad you're doing fine. And One Sluggy, of course you can ask a question. Yeah, you can ask anything you want here, man. You've got enough street cred in this channel to be free to say what you want. Yeah, Aristotle. That's just what happens, man. Twitch is a weird thing. They're still working out all the glitches and trying to it's weird to try to coordinate everything to always run smoothly. It doesn't always happen that way, but whatever. No big deal. No big deal at all. So let's see. What else is going on today? Oh yeah, so I was talking with a friend. She has a really bad. She's in a really bad situation, and she might actually lose her daughter to DCFS. Might actually take her daughter away from her, and so I've been telling her for the last month that what she needs is an attorney. And so I got her the name of, she doesn't make much money, so I got her the name of a really good attorney that would actually represent her for free, total pro bono, right? I gave her the number, and then I asked her about 3 days later, whether she called, and she's like, no, I didn't call. Things have been hectic, and I'm like, okay, right, and then. I asked her a few days after that, hey, did you call that number I gave you, right? Because she likes to call me up and complain for, an hour and 37 minutes about, how unfair everything is. And, when I asked her, she's like, no, I didn't call that number again. And I'm like, why aren't you calling this attorney? And she's like, well, I have all these things going on. There's such a burden on me. DCFS is so unfair, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, well, I'm giving you the number to a free attorney. You could call up that attorney. That attorney will take a lot of the burden off your hands because that attorney will help you, and help everything run smoothly. So why don't you just, use this free resource I have? And she's like, yeah, I'll call. And then, it's been a month and a half later, and now she might lose her daughter. And I'm like, did you call the number to get your attorney? And she's like, no, I didn't call it. I just, I have too much going on, blah, blah, blah. And it's like, dude, your daughter, you might lose your daughter. Your daughter might end up in foster care. Like, what are you doing? And so yeah, it was just a crazy experience. Like when you're talking with someone who's like, going through like a horrific experience, and then they won't even like take the advice you give them. I mean, it's crazy. But anyways, let's see, where are we at here? One sluggy, you say you think you're in the mindset of a life crisis and questioning the ways I do things and the purpose of why I do things. How do I find a solution to your crisis? Wow, that's a deep question. That's a really deep question. I wish I had a good answer for you. I can tell you this: my whole life is a pretty much a crisis. I always have all sorts of issues, right? I'm always dealing with stuff. Um, a lot of it seems like you're probably questioning a lot of the maybe the foundational tenets of your belief system, right? Sometimes we do that, right? Sometimes we grow and we evolve, and we no longer um, believe the same things we used to, right? And when that happens, all the layers of belief that rest on top of that kind of get shook and shaken, right? So like when that happens, it seems it can be really stressful, right? It can be really unnerving because we're losing basically our belief system. We're losing what we're accustomed to. I will say this: you just kind of try to wait out the storm. Sometimes you just got to wait out the storm, and things will get chaotic and crazy for a while. But then things slowly settle down once your new belief system solidifies. And I don't know the specifics of what's going on with you, so I can't really give you any better insight than that right now. But just try to hang in there. I mean, typically things get better. Typically, if you just wait it out, things do get better. So that would be my advice. Yeah, let's see. It's Terror Time. You were saying you love dancing. You would dance all your life. You and Swiss, you're both big dancers. You both go out for all night on the town, and you spend your nights in clubs dancing it up. That's cool though, right? Dancing's a great workout. That's actually one thing that I refuse. Pretty much refuse to do. I don't go out in public and dance. Like it's like I just feel like in life, I want to be stubborn about something. I want to be like the dude that's like really like stubborn about something. So like I just chose dancing to be the thing that I don't want to do. When I'm in a mosh pit, like when I go to see metal bands and stuff, I consider that my public display of dance. But yeah, Terror Time, you're not a professional dancer, but you feel the music in your body and you just dance. Yeah, you just let go. I mean, you can see that in your stream that you're that kind of person. You'll be out there and you'll just let go, and you can feel it. You can feel the rhythm, and you just move, and that's awesome. And it's such a great workshop, or such a great workout. Tons of emotes. Yeah, one slug. Yeah, I wish I could be more of assistance. I mean, maybe try talking to a counselor. I've seen a counselor for a long time actually, and that definitely helps. You could be more specific than with their counselor, and they're trained professionals as long as you find someone good. I will say that make sure you find someone that you connect with well. If you are going to go the counselor route, there's some garbage counselors out there, just like there are in any profession. But then there's some exceptionally good counselors out there as well. So it definitely helps to communicate about it. And a lot of times what they do is they just basically do active listening. They'll just kind of like repeat what you say in like a different way to try to process it and to help you process it. And sometimes when you say something and you hear it said back to you, it can make it different. Like you can understand it in a different light. And that's that is important. That's significant, right? Because sometimes we get hung up on the way we think about things through our usage of words, right? And when someone says something differently, we can kind of see it from a whole new perspective. So that's definitely a good thing. Hey, Victor Sor, you said one of your favorite philosophers said that facing obstacles in one's life tends to be a good sign. It tends to mean you are on the right path. What we want to avoid is complacency. Aristotle, absolutely, yeah. Post a link to the counselor. I have links enabled. Even though I had what's it called? I had a troll in here yesterday who wanted to take advantage of that. But yeah, definitely check out Aristotle's link. I mean, Uh, I'm a philosopher. Aristotle's a philosopher. We have existential crises. Well, I do. My whole life is an existential crisis, but I'm sure he might have experienced something along the same ways as well. But it's definitely helpful to talk to someone about it. And yeah, I highly recommend that. It can make all the difference just to hear someone else, and then also to share whatever's going on in your heart, with another human being, is super important. That's one of the reasons why I preach radical, open, and honest communication, because a lot of times we hold what's inside of us, buried. We bury it deep within, and then we're never able to express that. We're never able to let that out. And when that happens, there's a lot of issues that arise, and you'll see people just explode at times. And it's like, I don't know, he was just this quiet guy, and then he went and did all these horrific things, and a lot of times it's because the society or culture that he lives in is unwilling or to allow that individual to express how they feel without fear of condemnation. So it's definitely something you want to get off your chest. You want to talk to people about. I will say this though, like, make sure you're communicating, in an appropriate setting, right? I've made the mistake of communicating what's on my heart to people who weren't ready for the truth, or and maybe I wasn't as tactful as I could have been at the same time, and it's damaged some of my friendships. But your true friends will be there for you. That's what it comes down to. The people who are closest to you and who care the most about you, they'll appreciate the fact that you are expressing how you truly feel. Like I always say, people talk about everything except what's closest to their heart. People typically don't express their most foundational, urges, beliefs, and desires, because they're afraid. They're typically afraid. They're afraid of judgment. They're afraid of what other people might think. They're afraid that they'll be vulnerable and that someone will use that information against them or whatever. Right? There's always a reason to be afraid. Right? But when you live a free existence, and when you are willing to express how you truly feel, you have this a certain level of authenticity that you gain, and you feel genuine, and you feel real, and you're not living a very, like, plastic existence. You're not living that kind of existence, right? And that means a lot. There's something really significant about that. Hey, Imbalanced is here. How's it going? Good to see you. Good to see you, brother. How are you doing today? Imbalanced is a streamer here in the fitness and health community. Sometimes I rate him, he has a shirt on, and sometimes I rate him and he doesn't have a shirt on. Either way, he's still a good guy, and it's great. It's always great when you pop in, man. I'm definitely grateful that you're here. So definitely check him out. Drop him a follow. Let's see. All right. Aristotle, you said a lot of therapists will list themselves here, and you can look through profiles. Uh, and then Aristotle, you also say, I oscillate from being so dizzy from my anxiety that I need to lay down to only feeling slight anxiety. Yeah. Yeah. You know what? It's funny. Like, I was taking a class on Plato in grad school, and my professor was talking about midlife crises, and she's like, well, the good thing about being a philosopher is that you work through these things, and then at an early age, and then when you get older, you tend to not have a midlife, you won't have a midlife crisis. And I said to the guy next to me, I said to Alex, I'm like, hey Alex, my whole life is a midlife crisis. My whole existence is a crisis. And he thought it was funny. That's the problem with being a philosopher. We tend to think so much and overanalyze that. We see through a lot of the bullshit, and it causes issues throughout our whole lives at times. Kind of like what Aristotle was saying, oscillate from being so dizzy from anxiety that you need to lay down until I'm feeling. Yeah, I have an anxiety disorder too, Aristotle, man. It's just, it kind of goes with the territory, that existential dread, that comes with being a philosopher. When Sluggy, aren't I like your therapist? I am not a licensed therapist. I am not a licensed counselor. I do give advice. I do give if someone wants to hear it, and I can tell you what I've come up with in my life, and like the things that have helped me in my life. But like I'm definitely not a licensed. I'm not licensed in any way, shape, or form to do that stuff. You're not a fan of counselors, though. You've created a lone wolf mindset for yourself. Okay, and I get that. I don't. I've had some bad experiences with counselors too. Maybe that's the way. And you know what? If I'm helping in any way, then yeah, then that's good. But I definitely don't pretend to be a counselor, you know, or like a professional counselor or anything. I'm pretty empathetic and whatnot, but yeah, I, I wish. I would need to know more specifics. You know, you can always send me a message, DM me, and we can talk more if you want. If you don't feel comfortable talking here, or we can talk on Discord. But yeah, I mean, we all go through stuff. We all go through times that are really tough, right? Especially with COVID with COVID these COVID days, right? You know, people are isolating and self isolating, um, and it sounds like you try to solve problems on your own if you've created a lone wolf mindset, and I get that, right? Because I kind of do the same thing at times, right? Sometimes I'll kind of just go within and I'll try to figure out how I can solve the problem, how I can resolve it, on my own, right? I don't like the notion of being dependent on others. I like that rugged individualist mindset. I've always just been that way. And that's. But to be honest, in my life, it's been not it's been good at times, but it's also been a weakness. Because there are times where we all need help. We all need to ask others for help and guidance. Because it's just the way it is, right? It's just part of the human condition. We need help from others at times in our lives, and anyone who says no, is not being truthful. Maybe they're deluding themselves, or maybe they're just trying to pretend that they can do it all on their own, but it's not the case. Yeah, and I definitely I'm always willing to help. So send me a message if you ever want to talk to directly, and we can do that as well. Let's see, Aristotle, you said that's a secret. You can always stay in a little in crisis. Yeah, that's kind of the case, right? That's kind of the case with philosophers, right? We always have that anxiety, and it's just kind of like, one could argue that it propels us, right? You could say, oh, hey, that anxiety is a good thing, right? It propels me to really, tackle these issues and to think about these things and to delve into trying to understand the foundational nature of reality, right? You could argue that, but at the same time, one could also argue, well, maybe it's better just not to think. Maybe it's better just to be more animalistic and just go to work, come home, drink a couple beers, and go to sleep, right? There's plenty of people that do that, and that's it, right? Yeah, they call it the philosopher's curse or something like that. We're always just trying to find meaning and purpose, and then create our own purpose or whatnot, and then try and it's just it comes with the territory of being a philosopher. Victor Story, you say the thing is most important. The thing is most people seek externally. That's why they have such difficulty sitting with their boredom, sitting with their own thoughts. I think we have to face discomfort to become stronger. We have to look internally. You bring up a really good point, and I believe it was George Bernard Shaw who said that all of man's problems are the result from him not being able to sit in a dark, quiet room by himself and be perfectly content. Right? All of man's problems result from his inability to sit in a dark, quiet room and be perfectly content. I believe that was Shaw who said that, and it's totally the case, right? Imagine if we could all just sit down in a dark, quiet room, without any distraction, and just feel nothing but perfect love and perfect joy all the time, right? That would resolve everything, and we can kind of do that with meditation, right? But if there's something like major, if there's like a crisis or something major you have to deal with, and it's hanging over your head, then it's a lot more difficult to get in that peaceful mindset. So yeah, I think you bring up a really valid point there, a really good, really solid point there. And the funny thing is, a lot of times people look externally for what their problems are, right? They say, oh, that X in the world is what's causing my unhappiness, or that Y, or that Z, and those different things, those different states of affairs, those different the outcomes of events, different people, whatever, and people try to blame those things for the sources of their unhappiness. But I tend to believe that it's more a perceptual thing. That what actually is occurring is that internally there's some chaos, within our own belief set, and we're projecting that onto external events and states of affairs and whatnot. So if we go within and resolve the issue internally, then those X's, Y's, and Z's out there in the universe cease to have that kind of control over us that we ascribe them to have. Because really, I mean, what are those things? Those things are pretty much neutral from the context of eternity, right? From the larger context, if you look at things from like the scope of all that's ever existed, I mean, it's real. Those things typically are not very big deals, right? They're not a big deal. But if we have preconceived notions about how we're going to feel if X happens or if not X happens, then we could suffer, right? We could suffer a lot. I mean, that's kind of like that goes with the territory of attachments, and Buddha said, a lot of life is suffering, right? And a lot of it is due to attachments to things in the world, right? But then that brings up a crazy point about like, well, then what are we going to not be attached to anything? Are we not going to love? Are we not going to love people? In the same way? Are we going to not care about the outcomes of anything? Do we have to give up like the joy we get from from the outcomes of daily affairs going a certain way? I don't know. I mean, I've been talking. Let's move on. One slug, you said, isn't that what they just give? What they give is just advice on how to live your life. Counselors, sometimes, right? Sometimes they do. They give you advice on how to live your life, and sometimes they just listen, right? And sometimes just having someone to listen is super important. Just to hear you out, right? Because we all have different things we have to deal with. My most traumatic event in my life was my sister's suicide, right? That's like a legit, serious thing to have to deal with, right? And I'm still dealing with that to this day, and it's been a long time. But has going to a counselor helped me, like cured me, from all the pain and distress that caused and all that? No, I mean, it hasn't cured me. I still am sad at times. I still feel angry at times that things happen, but at the same time, it's helped just to talk about it and to be open and honest about it, right? Let's see, Victor. So you say, yes, I think you raise a good point, Agni. After all, everything external is processed internally. Yeah, right. There's all the external things that happen, right? And then it gets fed in through our sensory inputs. So our five senses basically taken a fraction of the data that we can actually process from the universe, from all that exists, and then we take that little bit of data, that tiny subset of data, and we process it with the minimal processing power that we actually have from a human brain, right? Which is not much if you really think about it, compared to like supercomputers and things like that are strung together throughout throughout the world. And then we take that and we extrapolate and we form our perception of reality, right? And that's what we're seeing. So what we're seeing out there in the world has more to do with who we are than what is actually out there. We're seeing our perceptual, we're seeing things through a perceptual apparatus. And because that's the case, it seems like it makes more sense to work on what's going on internally in our belief system. And a lot of times we have two beliefs that contradict one another, right? Two beliefs that butt heads. We'll have an X and a not X, right? And it's like, whoa, I have this cognitive dissonance arising because I hold a belief in its negation, and it's causing all sorts of issues. And then you'll see that stuff manifest in all sorts of neuroses and weird things in people, right? But so it's like you typically have to kind of come to resolve those issues, right? Whatever issues you're having, and then you can maybe just be like, what, not X is actually not something that's beneficial to my overall well-being. I don't believe it's truthful in light of all the other beliefs I hold. It doesn't integrate well into the rest of my belief set. Therefore, I'm going to expel X from my being and supplant it, with I don't know, with a similar idea like Y, right? And then you incorporate that idea into your belief set, and then you see if that belief, contradicts other beliefs in your belief set, or if it's just more in alignment with your values and how you truly feel on a foundational level. And once you do that, like once you start questioning your beliefs and reevaluating how you view the world, you can evolve, you can grow. That's the name of the channel, Evolve Yourself TV, right? We want to evolve. We all want to evolve. We all want to grow, and we want to. But the problem is it's painful and it's stressing and it's tiring and it's not easy. It's not easy. It's much easier just to go off and get drunk or something, right? The problem is going off and just getting hammered is not going to do anything for you in the long term. It's going to give you some short-term relief and satisfaction from whatever pain or suffering you're going through, but it's not going to actually resolve the issue. And I'm not a fan of short-term fixes. And I believe that most people go out in the world and try to affect things in the external world in ways such that they can improve things, and that's totally cool, right? But I think that's more of dealing with the effects. And if the true cause, and if you're just dealing with effects, if you're just trying to improve the effects of something, then you're not going to make any real long-lasting substantive change, right? Because you're just dealing on the level of the effects, right? You're not dealing on the more primal or foundational primitive level, like which is the cause, right? So I'm all about going into the cause, the root cause of our pain and suffering and sorrow, and trying to find out what beliefs are actually causing that, and then expelling those beliefs from my belief set, and then supplanting them with something better, right? And that's kind of my view on it, right? All right, where are we at here? Imbalanced. Yep. Good to see you here again, man. All right. Imbalanced. You say express how you feel towards who you feel most comfortable. Yeah. Yeah, absolutely, right? And that's the thing. You need to feel comfortable around the person, right? If you're talking with someone and you don't feel comfortable with them, then I mean, you're not going to want to be like, hey, I have something very, very sensitive in my heart that I want to tell you, right? You're typically not going to want to do that, right? Because you're gonna feel very vulnerable, and you might be afraid of what they think or whatnot. But if it's if it's someone that that you're tight with, someone that you've known for like a long time, and that who has your back, no matter what, right? Then yeah, you can be more open with them. Be more be willing to be vulnerable. There's a certain level of strength that comes from being vulnerable, and people don't acknowledge that level of strength, right? People typically equate strength with like the ability to like come out swinging. It's like, oh, I came out and I knocked the other dude out, or I'm such a strong woman, I'm such a strong man because I did X, Y, and Z, and I did it all on my own, blah blah blah. But I mean, in actuality, sometimes strength is legitimately asking for help, is putting yourself in a vulnerable space, right? Because if you're that strong to actually put yourself out there in a vulnerable space, then you can handle a lot. You can handle life. You can handle things, and you know what? People will help you. Assuming you're not around like all toxic pieces of garbage, right? Assuming you have some positive people in your life who are gonna be there for you. Victor Story, you say, absolutely. I think that we tend to fear most what we do not understand. My experience is that the ultimate path is straight through. Yeah, it's brutal though, right? It's absolutely brutal at times, to go straight through, right? But it's the way to make the most progress, right? I mean, like I know a lot of people that just complain about things in the external world. Oh, I can't do this because of that person. I can't do that because of that situation. I can't do this because of that state of affairs, right? And then there's people that just are just like, you know what? I'm going to go into that discomfort, and that's actually one of the principal guiding lights of my existence. I was watching a yoga DVD about, man, this was about 10 years ago or so. I was checking out this awesome, it was a Power Vinyasa yoga DVD, and I was doing the class with the instructor, and she said in the video, she said, hey, notice that area of tension in your lower back, because like we were doing this like stretch where there was a lot of strain and tension in this one area in the lower back because of the posture, right? She's like notice the area of tension and discomfort, and do not shy away from it, but go into it. Explore that region without judgment. She said something along those lines, and I thought about that, and I was like, that's really good life philosophy. That's really good life philosophy. Go into the areas of discomfort, go into the areas of pain, go into the areas that people are typically naturally programmed to go away from, right? When I say programmed, genetically predisposed to shy away from, because there were some, over the course of evolutionary history, certain where we're basically, we learn to avoid pain and seek pleasure, right? The pleasure-seeking principle and all that. But at the same time, we're never gonna really grow if we're always just running from our pain. We need to confront it head on if we're gonna be able to grow. And that's one of the most challenging things in the world, right? To actively seek out those areas of discomfort in us. I mean, people don't like to do that. People don't like to go down in their belief set and really analyze the whatever's causing the problem. They like to not think about it. They like to distract themselves. So some of the major ways that people deal with major crises in their lives is to maybe turn to drugs and alcohol, right? That's something that people do. I live in Chicago. I live in the heroin capital of the U.S. All the heroin. We talked about this yesterday. All the heroin comes up from Mexico into Chicago and then gets distributed throughout the rest of the country. And I've had friends that have had issues in their life and have turned to heroin, right? And then their life is pretty much over after that. It's not a good move, right? But people it's easier than it is to actually confront the issue head on, right? That's one way people try to avoid pain. Another way is they try to distract themselves, right? You'll meet people that constantly their whole way of living life is to constantly stay busy, right? So they'll go off and they'll be like, okay, I'm gonna go to the soccer game, right? Then I'm gonna go grocery shopping, and then this and that and this and that and this and that, and they basically are always on the run. They never slow down, and that's that's their way of dealing with issues, right? And to try to avoid them forever, right? And eventually it catches up with you. It's just like trying to solve all your problems through being a heroin addict, right? It's going to catch up with you eventually. No one. I've never met anyone in my life who's like, I'm really happy that I started using heroin, right? It just doesn't work out, And then there's other people have different attempts. Some people turn to like religion or certain philosophical ideology, or a certain or something else, a certain spiritual path, right? And they'll turn to those paths to try to resolve whatever issues are going on in their life. And I've always felt that's more like a healthier way of doing it. Assuming you can find a certain set of beliefs that is actually compatible with what you currently believe, and also that you find palatable, right? You don't want to just like accept like some faith just based on someone telling you to, right? That would never work out. All right, Victor Sor, you say, yeah, we learned to avoid pain and seek pleasure long before we gain the capacity to face these things. Absolutely. This is the battle we face at times in our minds. That's so true. It's absolutely true, right? I mean, we're basically primitive beasts with enlarged prefrontal cortexes, right? And because we have these, we have the enlarged prefrontal cortex, we have self-reflective consciousness, right? We got that going for us, which can be a blessing and a curse. And we have psychological continuity. That's basically to be able to seek the temporal sequencing of events, in throughout your life, right? So you can say, oh, when I was 5, I experienced X. When I was 10, I experienced Y. When I was 15, I experienced Z, right? So we have psychological continuity. We have first-person perspective and self-reflective consciousness, right? So we have these tools at our disposal. The problem is, no other animals really have these things. So we're just kind of trying to do the best we can with these tools, and sometimes they kind of go haywire on us, right? Sometimes you'll see people that are just that are in analysis paralysis, right? Because they're just constantly analyzing things over and over, and they're not really and they get stuck in a loop, right? That's part of the nature of human beings, right? Sometimes we get stuck in loops, and then it's a pain to try to break free from the loop, because we start repeating the same patterns of behavior, and we start thinking the same train of thought over and over, even when it's not helpful. But what happens is we get comfortable with those certain static beliefs, and then we just continue exhibiting those same things. I'm a chess player, and there have been times in my life where I'll just play, bad. I'll play the same opening over and over just because I'm comfortable with it, even though it isn't objectively the best. And it's like, and it's at some point, I've had to, I have to just give myself a kick and be like, look, all right, I know I shouldn't play my bishop to f4 here. Like, why am I doing that? Why do I always play my bishop to f4, here in this position, right? It's not the right move. It's not right. Right. G5 is a much better square for my bishop here. Why am none of the top players are playing bishop f4. They're all playing bishop g5. Or things like that, right? So, but I'll find myself playing the same patterns over and over sometimes. It's just something you gotta break through and break out of at some point. According to Rawls, neuroscientists, the theory of the two decision making system we have. Yeah, yeah. I don't know Rawls much, but I hear his name in passing. I hear his name en passant. It's funny. Those of you who play chess, en passant was the last rule change they made in chess, and it actually is French for in passing. And that the idea is like you can move when your pawn moves two squares ahead. If there's a pawn in an adjacent file, you could actually capture behind the pawn. It's like this weird thing that they invented to try to. It was after they made it to try to deal with the fact that people were pushing their pawns all the way down the board, and then people would just jump two squares with their pawn and like pass up the attackers, right? But yeah, that's just how it goes. Victor, so you say yes, these things, and Rawls also theorizes that our prefrontal cortices allow for rationality. Yeah, that might be the case as well. That sounds like something reasonable, right? I mean, our prefrontal cortex. I mean, what does it do? It does allow us to think in rational ways. And then you can also, you have tons of, neuroscientists that have find case studies of people who have had damage to their prefrontal cortex, and they're like, this person has damaged their prefrontal cortex in this region, and now they no longer have the capacity to, act in a certain rational fashion in a given situation, right? Or maybe across many situations. So yeah, I mean, these are all, the prefrontal cortex basically it gives us a shot at not being more than an animal, I guess you could say. But then the question is, are we ever more than animals, right? I mean, is the prefrontal cortex really that spectacular of a thing? Is human rationality that spectacular? I mean, a bird might think that their wings are the most spectacular thing. As humans, we value our prefrontal cortex, right? We value our self-reflective consciousness. We like the idea of being able to think back on our lives and order things in a temporal sequence, right? But I mean, a cheetah might think that running fast is the coolest thing, right? And of course, I'm being I'm joking around a little bit, right? They're not. I know a cheetah's not like sitting there thinking like, oh, hey, it's really cool that I can run this fast, right? Because that's all it knows, right? But you know what I mean? It's just basically it's just another attribute, right? The prefrontal cortex and the things that it allows us to do is a major evolutionary advantage, and that's why it's stuck around, especially because we have to use up so much energy. The human brain is crazy with the amount of energy that we need to actually consume, such that it can actually process and give us an advantage over the other animals. Well, I've been talking a lot. I need to drink some water here. All right, that's a lot of talking. Now, I typically come out here all high intensity, and I come out here and I do the talking thing, and I'm a loquacious guy, and I like to deal with issues of substance and give advice if I can to help people and to talk about my experiences in life. And then we slow things down and we do our meditation. And hopefully through meditation we come to deal with the internal issues that reside within us by recognizing our true essence, and that our true essence lies beneath the level of consciousness. So you're going to want to get in a comfortable seated position. You can sit in a chair. You can sit on the floor in lotus pose. or cross-legged. And you can sit with your back against the wall. The main thing is to find a comfortable seated position that works for you. And then gently close your eyes and take a few deep breaths on your own. And I have a Buddhist chant that I play that has a chime that goes off every 2 seconds. And you can use that to help regulate your breath count. Take a few more deep breaths on your own while maintaining good posture. Inhale through your nose, gently raising your belly. Exhale through your mouth, gently lowering your belly. Breathe in through your nose, gently raising your abdomen. Breathe out through your mouth, gently lowering your abdomen. Stay focused on your breath. Inhale, gently raising your belly. Exhale, gently lowering your belly. Breathe in, gently raising your abdomen. Breathe out, gently lowering your abdomen. Keep your attention on your breath count. Inhale. Exhale. Breathe in. Breathe out. The breath calms the body, and the body calms the mind. Be mindful of your breath. Visualize yourself on a mountaintop, sitting in lotus pose, watching the clouds move through the sky beneath you. Two clouds merge into one, and one cloud divides into two. Those clouds are like your thoughts. In meditation, we clear our minds and go beneath the level of thought. We go to the place of oneness within us. Inhale. Exhale, releasing all that serves you unwell. Breathe in. Breathe out, releasing all that is of no benefit. Your essence is love. When thoughts arise in your mind, visualize them as clouds moving through the sky and disappearing over the horizon. And return your focus to your breath count. Inhale, gently raising your belly. Exhale, gently lowering your belly. Breathe in, gently raising your abdomen. Breathe out, gently lowering your abdomen. The breath calms the body, and the body calms the mind. Be mindful of your breath count. Your essence is love. The manifestation of love is light. Your purpose is to shine your light on others. And awaken the inner light within them. And they will shine their light on all whom they encounter. Until all of humanity is lit once again. Inhale. Exhale. Breathe in. Breathe out. Keep your awareness on your breath count. When thoughts arise in your mind, release them. and return to your breath. When thoughts creep back into your mind, let them go and return to your breath. We are not the sum collection of our thoughts. Return to your breath. Our foundational essence lies beneath the level of consciousness. Go back into your breath. Inhale, gently raising your belly. Exhale, gently lowering your belly. Breathe in, gently raising your abdomen. Breathe out, gently lowering your abdomen. Be mindful of your breath count. Your essence is love. The manifestation of love is light. Your purpose is to shine your light on others. And awaken the inner light within them. And they will shine their light on all whom they encounter. Until all of humanity is glowing radiantly once again. Inhale. Exhale, releasing all that is of no benefit. Breathe in. Breathe out, releasing all ego that obscures your third eye sight. Stay focused on your breath count. And your next inhale, travel down beneath the level of consciousness. Go to the region surrounding your heart chakra. Feel the love that emanates from that location. Feel the warmth that emanates from that love. That love is your foundational essence. That love is your identity. That love is who you truly are. You will be that love for eternity. Inhale, going deeper into that love. Exhale, feeling the warmth coming from that love. Breathe in, going further down to the center of that love. Exhale, feeling the oneness with all of creation. Inhale. Exhale, releasing all that does not serve you well. Breathe in. Breathe out, releasing any ego that obscures your third eye sight. Stay mindful of the love within. When thoughts arise in your mind, release them and return to your love. When we come to understand that our essence is not our consciousness, we come to find perfect peace. For our essence is pure love, and that pure love is eternal. Search for the center point of that perfect love within you. Explore the space around that center point. And when you're ready, go on through that center. I'll meet you on the other side. At the center point, you come to remember who you truly are. At the center point, you come to remember how you came to be. At the center point, you come to remember what you are. center point, you come to remember your purpose. You are divine. You are eternal. You are immutable. You are one with all of creation. You flow continuously from the source of all creation. You are perfection. You exist in perfect peace. And you have perfect joy for eternity. Inhale, filling your vessel with love and light. Exhale, releasing any residual ego from your body. Breathe in, filling yourself with perfect oneness. Breathe out, releasing any stress and tension from your body. You are divine. Gently open your eyes and return to the present moment, bringing with you the peace from this meditation throughout the remainder of your day. Namaste. Thank you so much
for sharing this sacred space with me. I am truly honored and humbled to be your meditation guide tonight. I hope you all feel a little more peace and love in your existences. And I hope you got something out of that. How was that for everyone? How was that meditation? For me, I definitely feel calmer and a little more peaceful. Chad guy, yeah, I need to hydrate. Uh, Water is so important. It's funny, everyone's always looking for ways to improve their lives, one of the simplest things you can do is just drink more water throughout the day. I think they say you're supposed to drink 1 ounce of water for every pound you weigh, or something like that. Or no, yeah, I think that's it, or maybe like half your body weight. I don't know, but people definitely don't drink enough water, and I drink 2 gallons of water a day, so I'm kind of in the other spectrum. I have a problem with drinking too much water. Um, that's just my thing. But then when I get up here and I start streaming, I tend to not drink as much water. But yeah. All right, Swiss are good. I hope you got something out of this meditation, man. Awesome. I always love the emotes you throw out there. Sometimes I wonder if you're trying to compete with the emote queen Terra Time, for who's got the best emote game in town. But yeah, you're close, man. You're close sometimes. I think Terra Time's she's always gonna win that one though. I'm trying to compete with Terra Time in Terra Time stream for the redemptions of the sounds. I really like her cat and cow redemptions. Those noises are great. They're so loud and abrupt, and she plays along with it. I love it. I love Terror Time. She's so wonderful. It's like whenever I do the cat redemption, she's always like looking around. Where's my cat? Where's that cat? And it never ceases to crack me up actually. So yeah, that's it. That's about all that we got going on right now. Um, Thank you all again so much for being here with me. JT Farms, you are always appreciated so much. I'm so grateful for everything you do. JT Farms is our channel. She's our channel shaman. She keeps the energy flowing in here good. I put her to work yesterday. She was working hard to make sure we kept some of the trolls out of the world, or at least out of this world. Let's see. Um, let's see what we got going on. You're saying, Swissar, you're saying at the end, Raid, check me out. She's doing a wellness stream. Really? Is it a rerun though, or not? I don't like. I have a thing about rating people who do reruns. I don't like to do it. Let's see. No, it looks like she's just having a straight up stream. Well, cool. Yeah, I will raid check me out. I haven't rated her in quite some time. She's just a wonderful, awesome human being, full of positivity and love. And if she's doing a wellness stream, then yeah, let's give her a raid. Send her some love. Chage, you said, do you think it's possible for a narcissist to become aware of their actions? That's a good question. Let's see. Yeah, I mean, I I want to say yes, right? I want to say yes. Um, I mean, I think what a sociopath is someone who doesn't care about others. Really, is that the deal? A narcissist. I don't know the distinction, the explicit, precise distinction between like a sociopath and a narcissist. I think they're kind of all tangled up together. Um, but yeah, I don't know. I mean, I think maybe in some cases, yeah, and in some cases, no, right? And you never know what can happen in someone's life that could um, make them change the way they think, right? And if you think about it, we're not, our brains are more plastic than we give credit to sometimes. You'll see some people who have very fixed mindsets, but sometimes they change the ways they perceive reality by just supplanting a few of their beliefs from their foundational belief set
into with other beliefs, right? And if you can do that, then yeah, absolutely, I do believe so. I do believe a narcissist could become aware of their actions. Okay, we're gonna rate Check Me Out. Thank you all again so much for being here, and let's send Check Me Out some love and light. She is certainly a wonderful, kind human being. Namaste.